it's Margie with the Asking Spot. Got a couple things I need to tinker with, and one of them is this beautiful piece that my Ohio sister made for my Florida sister. And my Ohio sister is really good with glass. She has made me some beautiful pieces. But this piece is kind of more like her style, and it's a mix of my Florida sister's style. And they don't exactly work too well for my Florida sister. She likes things very modern and clean lines, so the etched up glass here just doesn't work for her. So I think I've got a way to tweak this that will keep the essence of what she loves still intact.
Please be careful.
And then I've also got something we found that sadly my kids don't need anymore. It's their Easter baskets. They're grown adults. Gonna be working with those in a bit too. But first, to get everything cleaned.
Roll 'em!
Not really gonna do a video for this, okay? Basically, keep this in mind when you're cleaning stuff. Yeah, you wanna clean through all the crud so that whatever you do next to it isn't messed up with that. But be careful of the cleaning products you use because they can leave some residual stuff that will mess with whatever else you want to do to this piece. So if you use, say, foaming soap of any type, remember to rinse it really, really well. If you use a polish type, a lot of times people want to do clean furniture and they'll use a furniture polish. Those leave residues, oils and whatnot, so that might not be the best answer. Sometimes it's just the simplest, most basic soap or maybe even a vinegar, and then just some water to make sure it's rinsed off and then dry quickly, and you should not cause any damage to the piece you want to fix or change up. I probably could have ran a fast-paced cleaning video here. I've never stained bamboo, but my guess is because it is kind of, I don't know, it doesn't have a lot of grain, doesn't have a lot of pores, it's going to be kind of hard for the stain to absorb into it. So I'm going to scratch it up. I'm going to use 120 sandpaper, just something I had handed around, and see if I can't raise the grain just a little bit. Technically, this has been my nemesis.
Nemesis?
Yep, polished shades. But seeing as I had some on hand and the color works, and this is also a smaller, manageable piece, it should be perfect. Just as everything was going along so nicely, I even using a polished shades, it was working, right? Stirred it, didn't shake it. I'm putting it on my piece, doing pretty well, just using a cloth. But then I had to get cocky. Yeah, See that? Dipping it in there? Not good. Because all of that stuff that gets in there has to come out, and it dripped out through the holes in the piece later. Luckily, I did come back and check on it, and I caught it before it dried in place, but just a heads up on that. Yeah, gonna need a second. To give a piece depth, to give it more of a genuine feel, you got to have your contrast. So that's highlights and lowlights. Now with the metallic basket, because I did spray on a metallic paint, it kind of naturally has its own highlights, but it needs more depth. So for that, I'm going to water down some black chalk paint and I'm going to blot it off as I go, but I'm going to be trying to get into darker crevices. So it looks like it's had a little bit more
Like
age.
dirt?
Yes, like dirt.
Dirt, yeah. So with the brown one though, because that is a nice even middle tone and it is not a metallic, it doesn't have a lot of reflective light going in its favor, I'm going to try and add highlights and lowlights. But with the highlights on that piece, I'm going to go for a much more extreme there, and the lowlights, that's not going to be that extreme. I'm just going to try and add some dark stain on it and give a little depth that way. It might be used to tone down the really light highlights I'm going to be putting on that piece. This is going to be a hard part to follow along with, possibly because, well, it's fishing wire, and that's clear. But I went to the craft store, and in the jewelry section, I got those other pieces, the clamping part and then the little ball that goes around it. The biggest tip I have to offer on these kind of things is let painter's tape be the extra hand you wish you had. When you can tape in place the fishing wire, it's great because then you can load the beads up and clamp them shut and do whatever else you need to do, and you don't have to worry about the fishing wire slipping out from underneath it. If you could, please click that subscribe button if you haven't already and give a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel and I appreciate it greatly. And now the final results. It was kind of fun that these baskets sort of work to how my kids' styles are different, and it reminded me of how my sister's styles are different. One kid's much more into the classic, more wood, natural kind of vibe, and the other kid is more modern and kind of fantasy stuff. So it worked out. They go perfectly in their rooms. And what I'm going to use them for in their rooms is actually hospitality baskets. When they bring company home, like a certain somebody's bringing a boyfriend home.
Mom!
So I put together some items that, it's not everything he might need, but just in case, when company comes, sure, you can pop over to the store and get something they might have forgotten to pack, but, a little extra comfort so that maybe they don't even have to go to the store if they don't want to or don't need to. Then we moved into what I did with my Florida sister's new artwork. It's what the Ohio sister did, but then it's tweaked and it matches her style and she loves it. Now, I don't know how my Ohio sister feels about what I did with the dish, because it's a surprise. We brought it up to her in Ohio. The Florida sister went up with it, and basically we knew she loved the dish a lot, and I liked what she did. It just didn't work for that sister, but I thought, I've got some beads Maybe that'll work for the Ohio sister. Of course, so she does such great glass work. I imagine she could, do different colored glass that works in her theme in her home just fine. But it was an effort, a thought. I hope that counts. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching the Asking Spot. Okay, I don't know where I got the. Well, yeah, I was inspired maybe by fellow YouTuber Makara Tours. I don't know if you've seen her work. She's phenomenal. She can sew anything. And I thought, well, hey, I can try to eyeball this. I've done something like this before. No, do measure. But here is the basic idea. It would have worked had I measured or had enough fabric. That was another big problem. I used some scrap fabric and I went around I drew a pattern for the circle base that's just a half an inch wider all the way around the circumference. And that was easy enough to do. And I sewed right sides to right sides around it. Now, the fabric I used that went from north to south or along the inside on the rim there, that was my problem. I didn't quite have enough fabric, but I thought it's flexible. No. But I sewed it right side to right side at the bottom, and then I sewed, the sides and brought them in, and yeah, it kind of works. Then there's way too much fabric here, which is fine because I needed some fabric to create straps. So I cut off the excess and, of course, hemmed up the sides so they look all nice and neat. Then I took those strips I cut off and I'm making ribbons out of them. And yeah, any serious sewer would tell you, iron them. But I thought, it's a small strip, so I'm sewing it by hand. Can you tell? These didn't turn out perfect, but it wasn't too horrendously bad. And like I said, if you do it the right way, it'll work. So yeah, ran a stitch down the center of it so it's folded in and it looks nice and neat-ish without closer inspection. Cut them in half and then sewed them to either side of the side panels for the basket. And now they can tie on at the bottom where the handles are. And if you don't look too closely, that worked.